much better. Right, it's very simple. It goes, Star Wars made me a fortune, paid off the mortgage, bought me a car. Right, now you know the words. You can all join me. Are you ready? Ready. Star Wars made me a fortune, paid off the mortgage, bought me a car. Thank you. Thank you very much indeed. Sorry about that.
Right. Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Muir, and I sculpted Darth Vader back in '76, and Dave wore the suit. I'm going to do a half an hour talk initially, and then Dave and I will do a Q&A session, so you can ask us any questions you'd like. Could you start running the film, please? Right, I'm often asked how I actually got into the film industry. Well, it started way back in 1968. I worked in the film industry for 48 years, working on over 70 major pictures. I was lucky enough to be the only apprentice sculptor in this country in the film industry. So I was extremely lucky, especially as there's so much nepotism in the film industry. Normally, you only get an apprenticeship if you know someone in the film industry. I didn't. I went down the youth employment office and said I wanted to do something with art. And they said, well, there's an apprenticeship down at Elstree Film Studios. They put it as a model maker, but it was a sculptor. They said that there's 12 people been refused already, so don't hold your any hope of getting the job. So I turned up a few days after for an interview. The resident sculptor took a shine to me and my work, and I got the apprenticeship. I spent 4 years at Elstree Film Studios working on small British films. Hammer films were made there. Things like Frankenstein, Dracula and that sort of film, things like The Boyfriend, just small British films. And then the day I come out my apprenticeship, I was made redundant. The film industry was in a mess. They weren't making films hardly at all. So I went outside at the age of 20. I had work unveiled by the Queen. 2 years later, the Queen Mother, and I did prestigious work all around London. Then at the beginning of 1976, I had a phone call from my old mentor saying, there's a film they're starting at Elstree. It's a sci-fi film and they want some strange characters sculpted. Did I want to start? And I said, yeah, I'd love to come back into the industry. Anyway, I turned up at Elstree Studios at the beginning of January, and the first character I had to do was the Stormtrooper armour. Started off with a chess piece and did all the pieces that echoed into the next. The reason it was done that way, they gave me a 5'10" person, and it would fit anyone from 5'8" to 6 foot. If they were 6 foot, the gaps would widen between each piece. 5'8" they would narrow, so that you go below that and they're overlapping, and it just didn't work. But after doing the Stormtrooper armour, I did some finishing work on C-3PO, and then I got asked by the designer to go down and see John Mollo, the costume designer. He said there's a new character that they want you to start, and the character was Darth Vader. They actually moulded Dave, and I was presented with a plaster model of Dave, exact size. So I never got to meet Dave on the film whatsoever. We've met a lot on the circuit signing in the last 10 years, but initially I just had the plaster model to work on. So I started off doing the mask, which initially had a back and a front, but it was so claustrophobic that they got rid of the back and just had the front and the helmet, which is what Dave wore. Also had the chest armour to sculpt, the shoulder bells and the shins. So had fun doing that. There were two other characters I did, the Death Star droid and ZZ3, which were in the sandcrawler, which you see in the desert in Tunisia. But after that I went on to work on 70 other films, and I'll talk to you a bit about them, because the last half hour it's all going to be Darth Vader and Star Wars. I worked on 10 Bond movies, and I'll probably talk about one or two, but there are some interesting things that were on the Indiana Jones trilogy that I had to do. The first one was Raiders of the Lost Ark, which I did the Ark of the Covenant, a lot of work on that. But I also did the Cobra that's in front of Harrison Ford when he goes down into the snake pit. And the Cobra is in front of him, and you see it moving around, and there's a glass sheet between Harrison Ford and the Cobra. But when they shoot back the other way and you see his terrified face, they would have seen the glass sheet. So I had to sculpt the Cobra that you see from that way. Going on to Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, that was, I think, out the trilogy, that was the one that I enjoyed working on most. Right down to the opening sequence where you see the Paramount Mountains and the camera pans back and you slowly see it's a gong and it rolls off, and then all hell breaks loose in the Obi-Wan Club. But that gong, I had 2 weeks doing a beautiful dragon that went right the way around with the Paramount Mountains in the middle. Then the art department came to me and said, we made a mistake. We gave you the wrong scale on the mountains. So I had 2 days to sculpt what you see on screen, the mountains and the dragon that goes straight across. It wasn't a patch on the original, but that's all part of working in the film industry. Another job I did on that was a 15-foot python. The main actress, she was terrified of snakes. And in the scene where they're around the fire and she's sitting against a tree, you see a python come down out the tree, and it goes onto her shoulder, and she grabs it and throws it away. Well, as I say, she was terrified of snakes. She wouldn't have a snake anywhere near her, so I sculpted the python that you actually see coming down out the tree. For that same scene, there was baby elephants behind the characters where the fire was. And they filmed them, but for the close-ups, there's no way that you're going to get a baby elephant to do exactly what you want it to do, as and when. So I sculpted a baby elephant's head, wires going down the back so the trunk moved, it had hairs right down the trunk, the eyes closed and open, and so it was used for that purpose. I'll just talk about one other job I did on Indiana Jones and Temple of Doom. I would imagine that probably quite a few of you have seen it, but when they're in the temple and the sacrifice, they put the hand in and rip the heart out, and you can see it pumping in the hand. And it was the production office seemed to think it was a good idea if I went to Harefield Heart Hospital and have a chat with the heart surgeon. So I did, and I said, what's the closest I can get? And he said, the primates. There's no way I could get a monkey's heart or anything like that. So settled in the end to get a sheep's heart for the detailing that I had to do. And I had a plastic model that was from a hospital to show me where the veins came out exactly and so on. So I sculpted that, and then the special effects did a double pump action for the heart that's going boom, 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 boom. But anyway, when I got up to leave, having chatted with him, and he said, oh, by the way, he said, I'm doing open heart surgery tomorrow. Would you like to come and watch? So my immediate return was, no thanks. I mean, it wouldn't have been any good to me anyway. I could hardly say, hold on a minute, Doc, can you put your heart on the chest? I want to take a few photos. So that wasn't going to work. I'll go on and talk about a few things. I mean, the first Bond movie I worked on, out of the 10, was way back in 1976, the same year I worked on Star Wars. And I had to do, I don't know if you remember the character Jaws with the big silver teeth. He was 6'10". And at the end, Bond picks him up by his teeth and dumps him in the shark tank. So the shark that he wrestles with and bites to kill it was the shark that I sculpted. You also see that shark swim up to an actress in there. Again, it's the sort of thing that you do in the film industry that people take for granted. But it's what makes a film believable. Things like Octopussy, where you had all those beautiful interiors of the palace in India. They go out and do the location work out in India, so you get the outside shots of the palace, and then they come back to Pinewood Film Studios, and all those beautiful interiors were done on the stage. So all the beautiful architecture was sculpted and moulded and cast by the plasterers, all painted gold leaf and all that sort of thing. But there was one scene on that same picture where Bond was sliding down this huge staircase that swept around, and he starts sliding down with his machine gun in his hand, and he sees at the bottom that there's an architectural pineapple, and he realizes he's going to do himself some real damage. So all the way down the stairs, he's shooting this pineapple off and just slides gently off the end, as Bond would. They're going on to maybe another Bond movie. The Die Another Day, with all the ice palace, the ice jet, even that ice jet that you go see flying across the ice and it goes over the cliff at the end and it's hanging there. I had to sculpt that ice jet, the shape of it. They moulded it, cast it in fiberglass, and even the clear cover that Bond was just inside, even that was sculpted and then moulded, and it was actually done in a clear plastic. So everything you actually do is so different. You've probably, that one there is Return to Oz, and that's the room where Dorothy flies out with the Gump through the like ornate framework at the end of the set, and you see her flying through the air on the Gump, and she actually catches the scarecrow, the head. Well, that was something I just did as a throwaway job, really. It was done in polystyrene, had to be done very quickly. They had made one in resin, but that one had to be really light because she was only a young girl of 10 and had to catch it. So that's the way that was done. Other things on that film were the lunch pail tree. The lunch pails just a silly little thing that you sculpt. But goes to make the film what it is. Even silly little things like where Dorothy is in the room in the school, we had to do lots of little suggestions in the wall of ghouls and that. Just, you don't really pick it up if you're watching the film, but we knew they were there, and if you really looked, you could actually see them. Harry Potter. I did work on 4 Harry Potter films. Order of the Phoenix was one that I did a lot of work on for the Ministry of Magic. There were 17 fireplaces that you walk through and walk down the Ministry of Magic towards the atrium. So there was 17 of those fireplaces, really ornate. There was only going to be 11 originally, but they liked them that much that they created a second row. Also on that one, there's a big serpent in the atrium. There's also a lot of figures there that were painted in gold that were nice to do. But as in films, I also did a really ornate golden gate, and it was never shot on. Never seen on the film. Again, it happens. So you never expect every bit of work that you do to be shot on, but you have the fun of doing the work in the first place. More often than not, you're seeing your work up front on screen. And as I say, you have the fun of doing it, and you know that work's going to be seen for years to come on film by so many people. I don't know how we're going time-wise. Oh, that one there, that's another Bond film. That was GoldenEye. And all the big Russian statues for the statue park were sculpted in polystyrene. That was a statue of Stalin that you saw. That was it going out from my workshop over to Leavesden Studios, which is now Warner Studios, where you've got the Harry Potter museum and so on. But they make a lot of big films there now. The first film that was ever made at Leavesden, because it was an old Rolls-Royce factory, was GoldenEye. And I actually walked around that when they were first putting the stages up for GoldenEye, and it was later that they put more and more stages up, and it's a huge studio now with security. It's unbelievable. But there were 2 of us that carved all of those, a 20-foot Stalin, a 17-foot Lenin, other figures, 10-foot high head of Lenin. And we had 10 weeks to do all of that work. It was all taken over to Leavesden. The painters had fun painting it to look like stone, bronze, whatever was wanted. I'll talk about one more Bond movie, and that's the last one I did was Skyfall. And I only went on to do one job, and it was a Chinese lion, and it was used in the casino in China, and it was down where the Komodo dragons were. The lion was moulded and cast 6 times and painted to look like bronze. I know that they actually toured with one of those bronze lions around Europe, and I had pictures of it in Zurich. Someone sent me pictures. I mean, I've been terrible through my lifetime. I've worked on so much work, and I didn't take pictures a lot of the time. Even Vader, there's not a single picture of me sculpting Vader or the Stormtroopers. There's a picture of me sculpting the Death Star droid, and that's not because I took it, someone else took it. I was also filmed sculpting Vader, but I don't think that will ever appear. That will be kept locked up in the archives, never to be seen. Because they don't like people to think that it's not the character, it's sculpted and so on. It ruins the myth in a way. So, I mean, as I say, I've not been one to take photographs. I think that one there's one of the Tomb Raider pictures I worked on. there was 2 great big panels I did that were the same, but they were 20 foot, odd foot across and about the same height, with a great big archway around. I had the lovely job of carving 83 stalactites to 26 foot, which was one of those jobs that just went on and on and on. I was doing it for 3 months, and I was quick. I was turning them out pretty much one a day in polystyrene. The plasterers coated them in plaster, then painted them to look like stalactites as such. That is that's carved in polystyrene as well. That's where they actually run up to get to the, I think it's something at the top they were after to get the power. So that was something Angelina Jolie run up to actually beat the villain. I think it's probably getting about time now where we can probably start a Q&A, Dave and I. If there's someone in the audience with a mic. Is there someone out there with a mic?
Yeah, I can add to what's been spoken before. I did various movies myself, and obviously, you know, I've got nothing like the talk of being able to talk about the films like we've just heard. As you probably know, I obviously did Star Wars, then we did Empire, and then we did Jedi, and then I did all sorts of other movies besides, and quite a few horror movies as well for Hammer. And you know, I've obviously got these to talk about if anybody wants to talk about working with Hammer and working on the 3 Star Wars movies I did. So if anybody's got any questions you want to ask me, please do. I'm more than welcome. Yes, right in the front. It was very pleasant, actually. What was it like working with George Lucas? Well, I just found him very, very, very easy to work with, and you know, I think he sort of accepted you for what you were, and let you get on with it. Like, you know, there was no. I didn't have him breathing down my neck all the time, saying, well, he wanted this changed or that changed, and all the rest of it. And no, it was very easy, very, 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 very pleasant to work with. No problems whatsoever. I'm sorry? James Earl Jones, no. Never met him. I've been in touch with him quite a few times, and had, you know, sent for autographs and things like this, you know. And I went to see him when he was in London at one stage. Went to see him at the theatre where he was working, but that's as far as it's ever gone. Very pleasant guy. Yes. You will have to shout because I can.
Film each Star Wars movie.
Sorry?
How long did it take to film each Star Wars movie?
How long did it take to do it? They're roughly about 3 hours. About 3 hours long to do the movie.
No, I think what he's actually is asking is how long it took to make the film. Is that what you're saying? It's well, they started filming the first one in March the 26th. They did the film shots in Tunisia, and it was at the beginning of June when they had to wrap up because 20th Century Fox were foreclosing on it. And the last day were there, they were going around shooting whatever they could.
Where's the original mask now?
Shall I answer that one? Well,
Sorry?
the original ANH mask doesn't exist anymore. The reason being is when I was told by the supervising art director that on Empire Strikes Back, they'd filled a container up on the lot at Pinewood, Elstree, and they'd put a lock on it. They had to break the lock off. And one of the first things he looked at was Vader. which was the one that David won. But what they actually did, they changed that into an Empire Strikes Back, which means they took the Widow's Peak off and they took it straight across and did a different paint job. But it obviously means that the original Vader helmet doesn't exist. It became an ESB, and what after that, I don't know.
What's the inspiration behind the mask? It's so menacing, it's the stuff of nightmares. Did you have a sad childhood or something? Where did you get your inspiration?
The inspiration? Well, the inspiration for me was the fact that John Barry, the designer, said it had to look villainous, frightening, and I think I probably achieved it, and Dave, with his presence on stage, made it so much better.
My inspiration was looking forward to the final payday. That was the main thing I looked forward to all the way through. I couldn't wait to I forget how long we were working on the movies, but normally it was about over a couple of months. And as I said, at the end of the couple of months, I was there waiting for the check to arrive. Yeah.
I must admit, for me, at the end of the film, I really wanted to finish, because I'd worked 76 days without a day off at one point, and I was just absolutely shattered, and was glad to get a little bit of a rest, but I was off a few weeks after. I went out to Hungary to work on a film called Prince and the Pauper, and straight after that I went on to a Bond movie. In fact, during the Bond movie, my wife and I got married in '76, and it was frowned upon to have a holiday or sort of go off, so got married on the Saturday, back to work on the Monday, but then we booked a honeymoon, that's it. We booked a honeymoon for soon as it finished on the Bond movie, and then I had a phone call, would I start work on Superman? And I said, I've booked a honeymoon, is it all right if I go? They said, no, if you go, you wouldn't be starting. So that was it. That honeymoon went out the window as well. We eventually went on one.
What's your favourite Star Wars movie?
Who's that for, Dave?
What was it? What was it again?
What's your favourite Star Wars movie?
What's my favourite Star Wars movie? Well, you've got a nice choice, about 6 different movies now, haven't you? I think Star Wars, the very first one, was my favourite, although I liked Empire as well. Empire Strikes Back was one of my favourites.
Did the stormtroopers always listen to you when you gave them?
No, had no trouble with stormtroopers.
You don't have to worry about stormtroopers, they can't shoot a thing anyway. They always miss.
Did either of you have an inkling at all when you were making the film that it would be so iconic?
No, none whatsoever, to be honest. I mean, to me, it was just another film. Although, as I said, you were working with somebody like George Lucas, and he had a very, very nice assistant director as well. And no, it was just very, very pleasant, and it's just interesting to see how it's all snowballed, ever since it came out. But I had no idea when I was actually filming Star Wars, that Star Wars would see me through the next 20 odd years, as it were. Yeah.
It's strange, as far as the crew working on it, pessimistic as we all were, we all thought it was going to be rubbish. We were proved so wrong. The following year, in summer of '77, when we went to see the crew showing up in Leicester Square, and you see that huge spaceship come over the top, it got a round of applause. And then at the end of the film, it got a standing ovation, which I've never seen before or after any crew showing. So it sort of proved that it was a film before its time, and would carry on being made as a franchise, and is still carrying on. I mean, I worked on Rogue One, and I made that the film that I was going to retire on after 48 years. I'd sort of gone full circle, and pretty much had enough, really. I wanted to retire.
Just a question for Brian. Obviously we're at a science festival and there's lots of displays of the new technology, laser cutting, 3D printing, and also computer technology, things we can do now with CGI. How much would your job have changed if you had those technologies available at the time when you were making these films?
Obviously, they are actually far more ambitious now with CGI, because you can actually build to a level, and with CGI you can take that right up, which becomes so much more impressive. Films like Gladiator, where with that one, Rome, they built up to a certain level where actors have got something to react to around them and props and everything, and then the whole set is then taken way up with CGI. So CGI used at the right time is fantastic, and it's been good for us as well. The other bit of technology that isn't so good for sculptors is the 3D printers that they're trying to use more and more. In fact, on Thor 2, they pretty much called the throne room my set, because I did all that ornate work on it. And they set me up to do a panel about so high, really ornate. And they didn't tell me, but they were doing it with a 3D printer at the same time to see the difference in cost. Well, I came out just over half the price of the 3D printer. The designer loved, yeah. The designer loved the aging that I'd done on it. He hated it, the 3D printer, because he tried to get another sculptor to age it. But being that it's plastic, you'd knock it about a bit, but it would still be pristine, and then you'd get a bit knocked out, and it didn't look right. And the last thing that really sealed it was they discovered that the panel was 1/8 of an inch too wide. Well, for me, I could take a 1/16 of an inch in clay, scroll it off it, take it off each side, it was no problem. For the 3D printer, you'd have to re-put it into the computer. So that was it. The designer said, no more 3D printing on this film. But it's coming. They're getting better all the time.
Hi, question for Brian. Given all the work that you did on the likes of Hammer Horror and Alien, with genuinely scary stuff, when it came to doing the likes of Star Wars and Harry Potter, was there anything that you wanted to do for the costumes that you were told, no, we can't do that, that's too scary?
No, not at all. In fact, Alien was after Star Wars. Alien came in '78, and I think it came out in '79, which I had the space jockey, there were two of us, a guy called Peter Voysey and myself sculpted that. We had 4 weeks to do it. It stood 28 foot high, and there's a lot of detail in it. And as soon as I finished on that, I flew straight out to Malta to work on a film called Martian Chronicles with Rock Hudson as a star in it. One of those films that's probably not been seen a lot since. It was a bit of a B movie.
Who was your best friend during the making of Star Wars?
One for you, Dave.
Probably Carrie Fisher. Yeah, she was very pleasant.
Dave, can I just say that I look right, then I look left, and then I look right again. And I'm now 53, and I've never been hit by a car.
Good for you. Good for you.
Thank you, sir. You made a difference.
Yeah. So my years as the Green Cross Codeman were probably some of the greatest years of my life, actually. No, and primarily primarily because I had the chance of going around to the schools and giving talks to the children at schools about road safety. And I mean, the net result, by the way, was that we halved the road accident figures in Great Britain with the campaign.
I was being totally serious, sir. You really did make a difference.
Just add one,
really did.
And then one more. In the year 2000, I got awarded the MBE from the Queen for my services to road safety and charity. Yeah. Because, as I said, we halved the road accident figures in Great Britain, which is a tremendous campaign. Yeah, so thank you everybody for being part of my campaign. Yeah.
How hot was it in your suit?
How much was it in my suit?
How hot?
Oh, hot. Oh, very, very, very warm, because it was all made from black quilted leather, like, you know, and with a helmet and the mask on and everything else. And then you go into the studio, and you've got the lights on you all the time. And it gets very, very warm, and I'm always got just the trousers and maybe a vest, and all the rest of it is thrown away until I'm actually working on the actual film, or on the set as it were. But sitting around in all that leather is quite sweaty.
What were the lightsabers made of?
Lightsabers. Sorry?
What were the lightsabers made of?
I haven't got a clue. I think they were metal, actually. They were metal. They were like swords. They were like swords, yeah.
What kind of lightsaber training did it take?
None whatsoever. Never had any training. You were just the two of you who were going to be fighting just had time when you ever wanted to go and practice, and that's what we did. But we never had anybody stood over us telling us how to use the lightsabers properly, as it were.
There is that stills photograph with you and Alec Guinness practicing with sticks.
Yeah.
On where the Millennium Falcon is. So there was probably a little bit of practice, but...
Yeah. Question for David. Who was the most difficult person to get along with on the set of Star Wars?
Who's the most difficult?
The most difficult person.
Difficult person? Oh, gosh. I'm trying to think of somebody who was difficult. I don't know. Let me come back with that one. Let me have a good think. That needs a good think over.
Right. Yeah. A question for David. Other than the day you got your paychecks, does a day stand out in the filming of Star Wars movies that is your favourite, most memorable day?
No, I think the first time we saw Star Wars at the cinema was probably one of the big big movements and big moments.
Question for David. Bearing in mind you was wearing that big leather suit, did you ever wear that gear for anything other than Star Wars?
No, not at all. Yeah. It's all good. There's lovely, all quilted leather all the way through. I can't remember what happened to it. I don't think I've still got it. Yeah.
A compliment to Dave. You did Darth Vader a lot better than the person who did it in Rogue One.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. I haven't seen Rogue One. Yeah. I haven't seen it as yet. Yeah.
Yeah, I have, and I tend to agree.
Good. Thank you.
What was the hardest scene?
What was the hardest thing?
Scene to act.
Sorry?
The
hardest scene to act?
Hardest scene? I don't know. I can't think of any scene that was hard. Not working on the Star Wars films. They're all quite pleasant. You know.
Is Darth Vader a fan of My Little Pony?
Did you catch that? I didn't catch it. Oh.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Only trouble is I was bigger than the pony. Yeah. Yeah. I could stand up and the pony could walk through my legs. Yeah.
This is a question for Dave. I saw a YouTube video recently where I can't remember what it was, but it was like they kind of changed your voice. You sort of said some Darth Vader-y lines, and they changed it to sound like Darth Vader, as if it were James Earl Jones. I'm just wondering that with that kind of like post-production, like CGI, but like especially voices and stuff like that today in movies, do you think that's like kind of destroying the authenticity, or like I was just wondering what your thoughts were on that?
Well, obviously a lot depends on what it is. I think if the voice is not right for the character is displaying, as it were, then I think obviously it should be voiced over by somebody else who is probably more got a more masculine voice. I personally think I have a good masculine voice. Thank you. Although I do like things. Oh, no.
This is a question for Brian. I was just wondering what the process of making Darth Vader's mask was like, and if there were any alternate models before you made the original?
No, time was so tight that I had one go at it and that was it. Liz Moore started before me, who did C-3PO, and she did 2 or 3 concepts because there was time, but by the time I was doing Vader, there was no time. I had one go at it and that was it.
A question for David. Given that the voice was not your own, did you have any jokes and laughs while filming where you didn't say the correct line just to get a laugh or a reaction from the other actors?
No, I don't think so. No. I just did what I had to do, and that was it. And knowing full well that James Earl Jones was going to overdub, so no, I had no problems whatsoever.
Question for David: is there a role that you've seen since Darth Vader that you've thought, yeah, I could do that better than the person that's done it?
Oh gosh. I saw Tarzan, which I would quite fancy. I would quite fancy the job of doing Tarzan one day, although I'm getting a bit too old for Tarzan. Yeah.
Was it hard to breathe in the mask?
No, not at all. Very easy. Very easy.
What is your midichlorian count, would you say?
What, sorry?
What is your midichlorian count?
What?
Something about clothing account, was that? Oh.
I don't know. I really don't know what you're talking about. Sorry.
I think very high.
Sorry?
Very high.
Very high. Very high. What was it again? Chlorian count?
Midichlorian.
Midichlorian.
Midichlorian. Yes.
What's a midichlorian?
Actually, what you're saying there, I mean, I went out to Ireland to do a convention there, and they decided that they'd have a quiz, the actors and the kids. The kids won hands down. They know all the details of everything, and we were hopeless. I mean, we go on a film, we do our thing, whatever it is, whether you're an actor or working behind the scenes, you go on and do that, and really, unless you become a real nerd yourself at some point, you don't know much else.
Yes. Sorry about that.
I've just watched the I Am Your Father documentary, Dave. How did you feel that the end scene was when you refilmed it? Because we never got to see it, did we? Did you enjoy the end scene that you did when you reshot it?
I can't remember what it was. I Am Your Father.
I Am, yeah. It's the one that the Spanish guys did.
Yeah, the one with the Spanish guy came over and reshot some scenes with you.
Yeah.
And they revealed you at the very end.
No, I've not seen it.
You've not seen it yet?
No.
All right.
Not seen that yet. What's it like? Is it good?
Well, we didn't see that last bit. That's what I was hoping you'd tell me.
Oh.
Yeah. But other than that, yeah, really good. Really good.
From what I heard, it was Lucas wouldn't allow it, but...
Did you ever wish that you actually had the Force?
Nice question.
I still do. Wish I could have the Force. Yes. I don't think my wife would appreciate it.
Are these the droids that you're looking for?
Yes, you are. Yes.
Did you have to audition for the role of Darth Vader?
No. Not at all. Just went to see them. That was it. Yeah. Obviously read through while I was there. And that was it. Got the role straight away.
Is there anything that you've either worn on set or made for a movie and got to keep and thought that's pretty cool and hid away at home?
You talking me or Dave?
To the pair.
No, I didn't. I wish I'd have got a Vader out the original mould. I didn't, and there's, well, through all the years I've worked and the films I've worked on, I've not taken, well, tell a lie. On a Bond film, I did 3 masks for skaters on the ring that were going after Bond. And I thought, oh, the kids would like those. So I asked the plasterers to cast me one of each. Took them home, and when the kids had finished playing with them, I took them down the dump and dumped them. Probably a big mistake. Another thing I did in the film Octopussy, where Bond's on the train, there's a bomb on the train, and the baddies come through to the carriage he is, and he hides behind a gorilla suit. Well, I had to sculpt the gorilla's mask and that he was behind, and I took that one home as well, and that went to the same place as the mask, down the dump.
Which dump was this?
It's funny, actually, the people that get in touch with you, and like 20, 30, 40 years after the event, they find something in the skip that gets emptied every week. So, yeah, you wouldn't have any fun finding it.
Hi, this is for David. In Return of the Jedi, when Luke finally takes off Darth Vader's mask, obviously they cast another actor in that role, but did you feel like that should have been you in that role where Luke takes Darth's helmet off?
I'm sorry, but I can't remember them using another actor for the role. Sorry?
The reveal they used, I think, wasn't it Sebastian Shaw?
Sebastian Shaw, was it?
Yeah.
I don't
when
know.
they actually take that off, they use something.
I've probably not seen it. Yeah.
Was there any, this question for Brian, was there any Japanese influence in the Darth Vader costume?
Well, it's been pointed out to me that the Japanese samurai helmet resembles Vader a bit. Also the German helmet from the Second World War. It wasn't deliberately done, it's just the way the design is. In fact, we went out to Japan on a trip and I was taken to this doll shop. And in the corner they had a display cabinet, and they had a Japanese samurai Vader there, and it was pretty good actually. But and the dolls were fantastic as well. Some of the dolls they were exquisite.
Who was your least favourite character?
Sorry, what was that?
Who was your least favourite character?
Oh, you've been asked that one, actually, haven't you? You were thinking about least favourite character.
My least favourite character. In what? In the Star Wars movies? God.
There's a lot of people that don't like. What's the rabbit-looking character? Sorry, what's that? Yeah, Jar Jar Binks.
Oh, Jar Jar Binks.
It
Yeah.
really wasn't a Star Wars character from my point of view, and the way it behaved. But anyway.
Do either of you enjoy watching movies, and if so, what's your favourite movie?
Me personally, there are two movies that I mean, there are hundreds of movies that I love, but two that I really, really liked were The Shawshank Redemption and One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. They're very different films and very enjoyable. What about you, Dave?
Well, I've got no definite favourites to look back on. I mean, I enjoy lots of different movies, but there's no one in particular that I would say that this is the movie, the best movie I've ever seen of all time. I haven't got any opinions on, pictures of that make.
We're going to have to make these the last couple of questions, guys.
For Brian, I noticed when you, on the screen, one of the films you worked on was the Jim Henson film, The Dark Crystal. What was your experience during that?
It was an enjoyable film. I was on it for about 5 months. We were doing a lot of the work on the actual sets, and it was all individually carved on the set itself. So it was quite a fun film to do.
Yeah, it's a question for David. Have you got any good tips for learning your lines?
Learning lines?
Yeah. What technique? Do you have a technique? Or method?
No, not really. No, just read and reread and reread and reread and reread until you got them off by heart. Don't have any problems that way. Yeah.
Hi, I don't have a real big sort of Star Wars question, but could you say, "I am your father" for us, David, please? In a Darth Vader voice.
But Luke, I am your father.
Done. I think we're done, though. Yeah. Right, thank you very much, everyone, for listening to us.
Have we done? Thank you. Thank you very much.
One more thing, Dave and I will be outside on the tables for probably 15 to 20 minutes, signing books and photographs. If anyone's interested, we'll be outside. Thank you.
Look forward to seeing you all. Thanks very much indeed. It's been a great pleasure.